3 microphones, well under $1,000 each on their own. You could even probably pay your taxes on each one and buy a nice mic stand and still come in around the $1,000 point. I mean it when I say these are some of the best mics, well under $1,000. I'm not going to do any of that $999.99 crap. Under $1,000. Real world under $1,000. You're hearing me speak through the Vanguard V4. This is actually their V44S Gen 2. It's a stereo version, but this is the only Gen 2 of Vanguard's mics that I have right now, so I wanted to use the newest iteration in this comparison. So I'll just be using one of the capsules in all these examples. I've had the Vanguard the longest. I know them really well, and I just think all their mics are just good general purpose mics. They work on everything I throw in front of them without a fuss. It's got a nice kind of open high end without being too harsh, a really nice character in the mid-range, and just enough low end to where I'm usually not fighting things. Now we're jumping over to the Chandler. This is the newest mic out of the bunch. It's really, really new. I think I'm the only person with videos on these so far, but this is the new Type L. This is from their TG line. It's very, very different from their other TG mic, so don't think of this as a dumbed-down, cheap version of their original TG mic. This is its own thing, and it's super, super warm sounding on top, but still has that really good Chandler character. The Vanguard has switchable patterns, which is really, really, useful. The thing with the Type L is that it's got the System A and B settings. So you're hearing me talk through System A right now, which is very forward, pushing that TG circuit harder, so you get a lot of cool harmonic content. If we switch over to System B, you lose a few dB, but you have a lot more headroom, and you're not getting as much harmonic content, so it's a little bit even more warm, and you have a lot more headroom if you're dealing with loud sources. This is great on amps if you switch over to System B. Chandler's been marketing this as the equivalent of having like a good dynamic and a good ribbon mic on an amp, and I think that's probably well warranted. It sounds really good on amps on System B. Switch back to System A. And we're back to that kind of mid-forward, high harmonic kind of TG sound. Let's jump to the Soyuz. This is a Soyuz 1973. This is a fairly new mic in the Soyuz lineup as well. I think a lot of people are going to be pretty surprised by how different this mic sound. Overall, all 3 of these are very, very different sounding mics, and my hope in this review is that there's going to be some healthy arguments about, what sounds best, because it's not about what sounds best. I think in context, when you listen to and download the full session files, which please do, this video can only do so much, download the session files and kind of mess around with them on your own. I think you'll find that sometimes the Soyuz sounds a little odd when you're comparing it directly to these 2 mics, but man, in context, sometimes it just has a really crazy ability to push through a mix and sound just right. One of the things that I've worked hard on as an engineer the past few years is trying to get better at recognizing how something should sound in context, because I think we're all guilty of wanting everything to sound huge and open in the high end with a nice low end, but a lot of times how something sounds on its own doesn't work in the larger context. So I've worked harder to try to be better at recognizing how I need to change things sound-wise to make it fit within the context of a mix and a production. This 1973 has helped me a lot, because although it kind of sounded odd to me at times right off the bat, I've found many, many times that it just works so much better in context. So it's forced me to rethink how I listen to stuff. Switch back to the Vanguard. So the Vanguard's probably the most open on the top out of all 3 of them. It's just a good overall sounding mic, and this is why I have a lot of Vanguard mics. They just work on everything really well. The Chandler, super warm, which I wasn't expecting from them, because their other 2 mics have been, pretty toasty on the top end and just big sounding. This is a much more mellow, chilled out high end. It just sounds sweet, and I think you'll see in drums, the TG circuit just has this crazy ability to kind of compress drums, shave off transients, and just make things sound massive. Again, the Soyuz, it's the problem solver out of the bunch, and especially when you start getting on really distorted amp tones, it just really gets rid of all the information in the low end you don't need, but still sounds punchy and never sounds harsh. So let's just jump into things. Overall, my philosophy on these reviews is to kind of do more demonstrations than reviews. We all hear things differently. We're all wanting different sounds for different reasons. There's an art form to this, and we all do this differently, and I think that's what's amazing about this. It's my hope in this review that everyone's gonna find something that just works better for them, because I don't want this to turn into, this mic's better than all three, this is the best mic, blah, blah, blah. That's not what this is about. I'd encourage you to download the session files, really listen to things in context, and go back and forth between the mics on different sources, because overall, there's some things I just love about the Vanguard on the acoustic instruments. It was really hard for me to go back to these other two mics when I hit drums. The TG just rocks on drums. And some things, especially you'll see that higher tuned Gryphon guitar that I have, it just fit better in the mix to me on the Soyuz. It kind of rounded off the high end and just focused in on that nice mid-range. Some of the guitar amp tones just worked so much better on this. So I think there's benefits to each of these mics, and I'm hoping that everyone's going to hear something that they like, and this will help you make a more informed decision, because in the end, there's a reason I have all three of these, and there's a reason none of them are going anywhere anytime soon. They all do their thing really well. So let's jump into things. Let's start out on acoustic guitars. The good thing about the Vanguard out of this group is it's the only one with switchable patterns, so I'm utilizing that on the acoustic instruments. I love the figure 8 settings on acoustics with the Vanguard mics. I kind of set it on figure 8, back it up a little bit to compensate for that more, pronounced proximity effect. Figure 8 rolls off the high end just a little bit. Chandler's on System A. Soyuz is just doing its thing. So let's start on acoustics.
I sold another memory. It's all the dead can leave behind. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. I traded all my time for a dead and 9 to 5. My bosses say I'm lazy. They wanna see me try. My stomach, good lord. I sold another memory. It's all the dead can leave behind. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. I sold another memory. It's all the dead can leave behind. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. I sold another memory. It's all the dead can leave behind. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. I'm going to try to yell. We'll see how this goes. My voice is pretty much gone. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. Yep, that's it. Throat is gonzo.
For guitar amps and the bass amp tone, this is on cardioid for the V4. The Chandler is going to be in system B, and then the Soyuz is just the Soyuz. You can't really change anything. I didn't have to do the pads on any of these. I think I padded down the API preamps, but one thing to point out is that when I did the demonstration for the bass tone, I noticed later that there's some buzzing, and I found out that the speaker in my amp had actually come loose a little bit when the screws had come loose. So I apologize. There's going to be a little bit of buzzing on the bass guitar tone. That's not in the mics. It was on the amp. The speaker just came a little loose. So it's fixed now, but yeah, the mics weren't causing that. The last thing I want to do is show a whole mix of the song. The problem with doing that is that these mics sound so different from each other. The Vanguard's brighter, the Chandler has a massive low end, the Soyuz has a big mid-range. Put them together and you probably have some magical mega mic. But and trying to figure out how to do a full mix to make this work was a difficult decision. So what I've decided to do is just kind of do a minimal mix where I've just done some very basic EQ where I basically just got rid of the crap in the low end, boosted a little bit in the high end, and maybe dipped some mids when I needed to. Other than that, just doing some small EQ tweaks on each mic respectively for each mix. I've kept the compression and everything else exactly the same. So we're going to hear a full mix. You're going to hear me switch between a mix with all the Vanguard. You're going to hear me switch between a mix with that's just all Chandler and then all Soyuz. So keep in mind this is a little different from most of my reviews where you're dealing with mics that might be similar to each other. They're so different, and I think, again, it's going to be cool because it's going to be very apparent kind of, what the mics sound like when you hear everything. So in keeping with that philosophy of trying to do a very minimal mix on here, I've gone heavy on kind of my mix bus. I'm mixing everything through the API console. On the master bus insert, I've got a pair of my coil tube preamps just to add some nice tubey color and weight. And then I've got the Hindi Amps Michelangelo EQ doing some work on the high end just to give a nice kind of overall, give them the best starting point that they can. So I didn't overmix things so that we could really hear what each mic sounded like, as opposed to doing some drastic mix decisions that might work on one mic but would sound horrible on the other. So I've done my best, but it was kind of a hard challenge. So let's go ahead and hear a full montage of all the mics.
Sold another memory. It's all the dead can leave behind. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. I've traded all my time dead at 9 to 5. My bosses say I'm lazy. They wanna see me try. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. This world creates a cycle of barely scraping by. Tried to make my way with a guitar in my hand, but those spotlights cost more money than I knew I'd ever have.